Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stand. Second time of asking if you were watching live on the previous one. Anyway, we're live. Paul Pogba transfer snub, Paul Pogba transfer boost. We're going to be talking about that. We're also going to be talking about not an apology from the referee for his decisions yesterday, but an acceptance that they got them wrong. Also an interesting stat about Ronaldo. Also want to talk about the general sort of press mocking of Solskjaer that I don't really understand. What I basically want to ask is what your thoughts were about the game yesterday, because in giving the breakdown and all the thoughts like that, I think, I thought we did quite well, but I think there might be another aspect to this game that people are thinking about in another way. Also, a big list of players that are apparently going to leave in January. So lots and lots to talk about tonight on the show. We're going to start off with that Pogba story and get into the critics about Ollie and I want your opinions on that as well. So looking forward to the show as ever. But as you can see, today's show is sponsored by Boohoo Man. As of 8 PM today, Boohoo Man have launched their brand new neutral collection. What's that all about? Well, from relaxed lounge fits, t-shirts, sweatshirts and heavyweight jersey hoodies, make sure you've got the neutral colours incorporated into your wardrobe in preparation for the cooler months. The new neutral range got the guys at Boohoo Man thinking, and these clothing items are like the unsung heroes of your wardrobe. And they want to know who you think is the unsung hero of Manchester United since the start of the Premier League. There's been quite a few I can think about, but look, get in the chat, whether you're watching live, if you're not watching live, leave your unsung heroes of Manchester United in the Premier League era in the comments below, and we'll have a look at those. This is Boohoo Man always looking to make it interactive with what the audience is, Manchester United fans. So Neutrals range has been launched. You can check that through the link in the video description. And as always, Boohoo Man have given United Stand viewers an amazing 40% discount that you can use by clicking the link in the description and using the code United Stand at checkout. Thanks very much to Boohoo Man as per usual. And as you can see, I look good tonight and I'm wearing some Boohoo Man clobber. So very, very good clothing. I would give you some suggestions as unsung heroes as well, but I will give my decision on who the number one unsung hero is later in the show. But I would say people like Michael Carrick, unsung hero, Ji-Sung Park, Dennis Irwin, Darren Fletcher, Antonio Valencia. And in the modern game, I would say somebody who is an unsung hero is an Aaron Wan-Bissaka, someone like that. We've had lots of unsung heroes at this football club over the years, but yeah, definitely from the earlier years. Kanchelskis, Irwin, top class players. Nicky Butt, was, out of all the class of 92, bit of an unsung hero, very good player. And actually started playing United more regularly than most of the other class of 92 players. But yeah, lots and lots. Some people are saying Fred. But links in the video description, 40% off. Check out the Neutrals range at Boohoo Man, and we'll come back to that a little bit later in the show. Wes Brown's another one. Unsung hero, though, for me, is not a utility player. It's a first team player who doesn't get the credit they deserve. So I think Dennis Irwin, Michael Carrick, those sort of players are absolutely correct. But look, bit of an unsung hero maybe, seamlessly moves into it, Paul Pogba. Is Paul Pogba a bit of an unsung hero? Interesting developments with Pogba today. We spoke to Fabrizio Romano this morning on the morning show. Do check that out. Really good updates on Bellingham, on Pogba, what the situation is likely to be with Pogba. We might have to be talking about Pogba for a while, essentially. But anyone want to take the bet that Ollie plays Lindelof at right back for the Champions League while Aaron Wan-Bissaka is out? I love Ollie, but he simply isn't good enough. I tell you what, we'll watch that one, Noah. That's an interesting one. Will he play? People are saying Nani. Will he play Lindelof at right back against in the Champions League? Let's wait and see. I think Wan-Bissaka's only misses one game though. But anyway, let me talk about Paul Pogba. A bit of a transfer boost, but a bit of a transfer snub. So basically, the director of football at Juventus. Remember over the weekend, Raiola was talking about Pogba and Juventus, and Romano said this morning, look, you can't really count anybody out at this stage, and Paul Pogba does like Juventus. Juventus this afternoon have come out and basically ruled themselves out of a Paul Pogba deal. So it's a boost for United fans if you want Pogba to stay, and it's a bit of a transfer snub for Pogba. I mean, look, never say never, but what the director of football at Juventus has come out and said is that they are looking for a player that is the direction of the future is what they're looking at. They're not looking at a player who is established. They're looking at players that are before their potential, before their moment was the words he used. So that would rule Paul Pogba out, who's going to be 29 by the time next summer comes along. And basically, someone like an Erling Haaland is what they're talking about. But Juventus are changing their pattern. You know, I think they've bought a lot of players. You can probably name a few: Matuidi, Ronaldo, Aaron Ramsey. These players that are, you know, maybe. I mean, it's hard to say with Ronaldo, but, you know, players that are maybe past their moment a little bit, they want to get players who are before their moment. So, you know, Bruno Fernandes would be a player that we brought in before his moment, but was a potentially very, very good player, as we've done with other players, you know, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Jadon Sancho, those sort of players. They don't want to be looking at people like Paul Pogba anymore. So, you know, that's quite a good thing for Manchester United. But obviously, what I would say is just because Juventus ruled themselves out of a race for Paul Pogba, and I think Juventus would rule themselves out of, I can't speak for their director of football, but I personally think Juventus will rule themselves out of a Paul Pogba deal because they don't want to do another Ronaldo deal where they pay a hell of a lot of money to a player that is not for the long term. And I think what Juventus want to do is rebuild. They've been very good at picking up free transfers, Juventus, for the last few years, but it's actually backfired a bit. They're an ageing team and they've lost a lot of money doing it. So Juventus, I think, are now looking to build for the future, and I don't think Paul Pogba will be part of that plan. But there's still Real Madrid, there's still PSG, there's still Barcelona. But it's a bit of a kick in the teeth for Raiola, because I think what happened at the weekend is that Mino Raiola started opening his mouth, and he's got a big mouth, as we know, about where Paul Pogba can go. And I said it at the weekend, to me it was like just dropping a little bit of bait into the water and seeing who bites on that bait, and making United go, ooh, because Mino Raiola wants Juventus, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, PSG, Real Madrid. He wants all those 5 teams to be saying, we want Paul Pogba. And then he can get the best price. But Juventus have basically said, no, we're not looking at that. So that's one out of the race already. I mean, one of the interesting things, just before we move on about Paul Pogba as well, is that why can't he go to Man City? Why can't he go to Chelsea? I mean, I don't think he would, but the most lucrative and richest clubs in the world are in the Premier League. Is it beyond the realms of possibility that he could go to a Chelsea or a Manchester City? I don't think he would go there, but there's certainly plenty of options. Josh-O, thank you very much for the super chat there. But yeah, just that sort of breaking news this evening that Juventus have ruled themselves out of going for that type of a player. They want players of a younger calibre, and they probably more likely put their money towards an Erling Haaland than they would a Paul Pogba, which, you know what, an Erling Haaland at Juventus for 3 years might not be a bad idea. We'll see what happens. Welcome to Josh, the latest member of the United Stand Members Club, by the way. Make sure you smash a like on the video. Thanks for everyone who's doing the super chats and supporting the channel. And if you become a member as well, you get your little badge next to your name, like Susan Brandon, Renate, who've just whizzed past there. Anyway, lots of other things I wanted to talk about tonight. My intention was to talk about different things, but that was sort of a breaking news story, so I thought I'd bring it in. Phil Jones for captain. Mino Raiola would be a good replacement for Ed Woodward. And City wouldn't pay his wage demands. Chelsea probably don't. I don't think there's any chance that. Do you think Paul Pogba would go to the Premier League? I mean, considering there's nothing we could do about it if he wanted to. If Chelsea had a word with Raiola and said keep it on the low, but we want him in next summer, do you think Pogba would go to Chelsea? We can't stop it. There's nothing we can do to stop it. But do you think Paul Pogba would go to another English club? Do you think he'd be that loyal to United that he wouldn't go? Because I do. I don't think he'd go to Chelsea. I don't think he'd go to Man City. But then I can tell somebody in the chat is going to say straight away, but Pep Guardiola said he was offered Paul Pogba a couple of years ago. So, you know, you never say never in football, do you? But it's a long time since that's happened to us, though. You know, we've done it with Van Persie. We've done it with other players in the Premier League, whether we've taken their player. But it's a long time since it's happened to Manchester United, where we've lost one of our players to a rival. I mean, unless I'm missing something massive, the last one I sort of remember was probably Tevez when he went to Manchester City. Do you think Man United are still interested in Basuma, says Flashy? We never were interested, Flashy, so that's news to me. Welcome to the Members Club, Amrit as well. Thank you very much for joining. So, I want to talk about this Pogba thing. I want to talk about this list of players that we're apparently going to move on in January. There's a few things I want to talk about. I want to talk about this poor performance thing about Solskjaer. But there's two things I did want to bring in. You know, Cristiano Ronaldo. We barely go a sentence without talking about United and Ronaldo at the moment. But two bits of news for you here. The first one I want to say is that in a referees meeting, they've acknowledged that one of the penalties yesterday against Cristiano Ronaldo should have been a penalty. Now look, I'm glad we've got that clarity, because I tell you what, I was getting very confused this weekend. I can't for the life of me understand why Kyle Walker's penalty against Armstrong for Southampton wasn't a penalty, and I don't know whether they've come out and clarified that. I've not heard anything. If anyone in the chat knows, let me know. But in relation to the 2 penalty decisions that Ronaldo didn't get yesterday, in a referees meeting they've come out and said that one of them should have been a penalty. That was the first penalty by Kufal. They're still saying that the Zuma penalty wasn't a penalty. Now look, I'll take that. At least we get something in our head that we can go, wow, the game's not completely gone. To me, both were penalties. But looking at them both, the Kufal one is more of a penalty. I think what they're saying with the Zuma one is that Ronaldo saw Zuma's foot and went down before contact. So it was a bit of simulation. Yeah, I can see what they mean, but it's still a bloody foul because he's nowhere near the ball and the foot's there to be tripped over, and he would have tripped over it anyway. So I still think it's a penalty. But I'll take the fact that they've admitted that the Kufal one is wrong. Thoughts on Mike LUHG, says Kevin. Thanks for the super chat. We have differing opinions on things, but on some things we have been quite aligned, so I don't really have a problem with him. Will the return of Rashi force Ollie to play Pogba in midfield? Look, I'm mature enough that if people's got very different views to me, I don't automatically think they're a knobhead. I don't do that, because I think, as I say, we dream that ultimately you're going to get extreme opinions one way or the other, and a lot of people in between. I think what I would love our fan base to appreciate is whether you like one opinion or you don't. I see people saying, oh, I can't believe people listen to Goldbridge's opinions, but then we'll have hundreds of thousands of people who do over a week. The thing I would always say to that is, you know, I used to fall into that trap of getting into those arguments myself, but we are Manchester United fans. We dream the same dream and we want the same thing. Whether you want Ollie out, Ollie in, whether you think Pogba should stay or Pogba should go, whether you think the Glazers are good or, well, everyone thinks they're bad. You know, ultimately, the bottom line of any proper Manchester United fan is that they want to win the league and they want to be the best. We dream the same dream. So I always try and think about that instead of getting into arguments with other United fans, because to me, these arguments that people get into, it's not really about being a United fan. You know, when people start saying, oh, you're not a proper United fan, you're from Nottingham and all this stuff, that's nothing to do with United. That's to do with your own bigotry, really. There's something inside you that thinks you're better than somebody else because of where you're from. That's nothing to do with Manchester United. It's against the principles of Manchester United. So I always try these days, when I'm thinking about differing opinions, is that we dream the same dream, we want the same thing. We just have different ideas how to get there. Will the return of Rashi force Ollie to play Pogba in midfield? Delo will play right back because of the Portugal influence on the team, says Sashin. I hope Pogba's going to play in the midfield. Maybe we'll talk about that in a little bit different. But what I just want to say is that I would like to have seen a public apology from these referees over the weekend. It's all right acknowledging in a meeting that the Ronaldo penalty against Kufal should have been a penalty, but I would like to see an apology, because these referees just seem to be becoming, you know, celebrities. That they seem untouchable, and it's almost like, well, we've done enough. We've had a meeting and we've acknowledged that it should have been a penalty. But oh, hold on a minute. If David De Gea doesn't make a wonder save, we've just dropped 2 points. And we should have had a bloody penalty to make it 3-1. And it could have been 2-2. So I don't... You know what? People would say I'll stop crying about it if we'd drawn. But I always think it's very important to pick up on these things from a position of strength. Remember what I said this afternoon about success? When you're successful, you need to analyse things even more to stay successful. I think people think when we get to the top, if we get to the top, everything will be all right and we can just relax and agree with everything. We won't, because you always want to maintain that success. And it's the same with this. We should have had at least 1 penalty yesterday, and if we'd got that 1 penalty, it'd be 3-1. And then we wouldn't have had the drama at the end. And that's because of the referee. So I'm still going to call it out and say, we should have a bloody apology for that. They shouldn't just let it come out in a meeting that they agree, you know, and they have agreed that the Kufal penalty against Ronaldo should have been a penalty. Was Wan-Bissaka a penalty? Personally thought we got lucky. Stuart, I just wanted, just very, very quickly before we move on, watching Match of the Day last night, I thought West Ham should have had a penalty as well. You know, when Wan-Bissaka absolutely clatters Soucek, I thought that was because Yarmolenko was offside from the pass. But he wasn't offside. Atkinson gave a foul against Soucek on Wan-Bissaka. I don't understand that one, but ultimately, maybe that was a penalty for West Ham, but ultimately we did win that game. We should have won that game, and some of the refereeing decisions this weekend were dodgy. Mark, any news on Eddie, says Hugo? I think he's back in training tomorrow, mate, so I think he may well find that we get a bit of Cavani involved. Maybe Villa. I mean, I don't know how we're going to get him involved. That's a question for itself. But also, just before I talk about these Ollie critics, something else that came out from the game yesterday, Ronaldo clocked the fastest speed on that pitch yesterday. Now, this is just another stat that, is fantastic, because apparently Ronaldo's slowing down. Apparently Ronaldo might not be able to cut it in the Premier League. He was everywhere yesterday and he was the quickest player on the pitch. These clowns that think he's not still a fantastic player, it's absolutely hilarious. Anyway, let's move on to the next point in the show. I really want to get into this because it's probably a question I should have asked last night, but on the breakdown you're talking about the tactics and everything like that. I've seen a couple of things today in the mainstream media basically mocking Ollie, basically saying that we got away with it a bit yesterday. It's not very clear what his tactics are, basically making out that he's been a bit lucky. Now, I personally felt that the job that we did yesterday was a good one. I felt that there were steps forward, and I think that there were positives. I don't think it's enough to start thinking everything's fine. I still think that there are issues in that team, but I did see some positives in there, and I generally was happy with the performance. I really was. There wasn't the only player I felt that was below par was Fred, potentially Pogba, but I just think Pogba was average. I don't think he was bad. I think Fred was slightly below average. So I was happy with individual performances. I thought there was signs of, good play. And we had lots of shots on target, which we don't do. So as a Manchester United fan, when I'm reading these stories about, we got a bit lucky, this, that and the other, I'm like, where have United been for the last year then? Because that's more shots on target we've had in a long time. And we're playing away against the best team we've played in a long time as well. So I just wanted to say, what's your enduring thoughts about the game yesterday? Am I in the minority thinking that there was a lot of positives? Do people think we were lucky? I just want to get into some of the chat there and have a couple of minutes sort of thinking about that. Amir says, Mark, great job as always. Thanks, Amir, for the super chat. Really appreciate that. If you want to do it for the $ and have your say, that's very, very welcome. If you want to become a member, appreciate your support. Michael Guest says, Harry was below par, giving the ball away. Swall says, United did some good things yesterday. Bruno and Pogba were moved around a lot and the team passing on the ground was significantly improved. I agree. Rohan says every season it's the same story. Whenever Ollie's job on the line, something miraculous happens, some individual brilliance, and we win games. But then at the end of the season, we go trophyless. So Rohan probably a little bit different about that. A few people saying that Harry Maguire was awful. I'll come back to that. I don't agree. West Ham were lucky. Biased ref didn't help, says Scott. We played well. West Ham are not weak, says Keenan. Solid performance, nothing to complain about, says Football Cleaster. And positive, but not because of Ollie, says Jerry. Why does Fred fall so often, says Ishmael. Very good, showed a bit of tempo and created chances and shots on target, says Nabil. I felt like we had more of an identity than other games, says Karma. I like that point, I would agree. I'm not in any way saying that we're over the hill or we're back or this is the start of something, but it could be the start of something, and it was definitely an improvement on every other game this season. Even the Leeds and Newcastle game, that was our best performance this season. There's still a lot of gears to go through, but I think we were never going to go and be elite after that game against Young Boys, but we improved about as much as we could do in the few days that we had. I saw more structure in that game compared to the other games, says Sizwig. And look, considering I felt we were carrying Fred again, there was always going to be a bit of give and take. So I thought there was a lot of positives. We were good, just need to sort out the midfield, says Alex Hunter. Would like to see more 1-2s and faster plays and more overlapping runs with such speed and skilled attackers. We need to make teams fear us more, says Vibe. And I think the performance was decent, but just need better in the midfield, says eSync. Ronaldo was a constant threat, not always the case with United's number 9, says Rishab. And McTominay played well, says Curtis. McFred are the best in the league, says Harry Brewer. Ronaldo was a threat the whole game, says Paolo. And we should start replacing Pogba with Van der Beek. Tempo was faster at certain times in the game, says Riley. And different story if they score that penalty, says Roshan. You know what? I think that, first of all, there's a few things there to talk about then. I mean, if you're joining a little bit late, I'm just sort of talking that the media in this country have sort of mocked that performance a bit. They've sort of made out that we were lucky. And I think that final point was exactly what I was going to say about that. Our media ain't that bright. I'm not a big fan of the British sports media. I don't think they dig deep into football. There's one or two journalists that do, but a lot of them, I almost think, I've seen them, to be honest with you, they're typing away whilst watching a football match. I do a watch along and watch a football match whilst reading comments, and I will miss things. I will. I have to watch it again just to make sure everything. These people, a lot of the time, are not United fans, and they're typing away whilst watching a football match. I don't think they're attentive to what's going on. I don't even know if their football knowledge is that great compared to anybody else. I don't think it's any more relevant. But I do think that some of these people, they'll go, United were really lucky yesterday, especially if they're not a United fan and they're a journalist. Remember, a lot of these journalists have a club that they support, so they won't feel about it the way we do. And to the outside eye, I think they look at yesterday and go, United were really lucky. If Mark Noble scores that's a point. He should score a penalty. It should be a point. So I think that's where a lot of this is coming from, that we were lucky, is because we that penalty at the end. And like that last comment said, if it had gone in, it would have been a very different story. But I know what my reaction would have been. Like, I do a match reaction after every game. We collectively do the player ratings after every game. I don't think if we drew that game yesterday, there'd have been many people going, fucking get rid of Ollie, he's clueless. I think the frustration would have been at the referee. Big time, because he's handed West Ham a lifeline, but he never gave us the 2 we should have had. So that's where I would have been. I would have been massively disappointed to drop the points, but I don't think I would have been over scrutinising the performance, apart from I probably would have gone in on the midfield a bit, because I still think we're carrying Fred. But other than that, I think there was a lot to build out from yesterday. I really do. And I think, stats don't lie in relation to shots on goal. We had more shots on goal than we've had in any other game this season, more shots on target than we've had in any other game. And West Ham, I felt, I've got to put my hands up, I'll say it again, I thought West Ham played really, really well. And most West Ham fans, and even David Moyes himself, have come out and not been too disappointed. They've almost put it down as one of those games. They felt that they played well. I think consistency of performance is now much needed, says S. Ahmed. Well, thank you very much, Connor West, for the super chat. Mark, thoughts on referee decision towards United since Klopp called out United getting more penalties than they are due? Considering your point of coming from a position of strength, can Ollie press this issue, says Vignesh. I think he will do. I think he's already done it already. I've heard Ollie say after last night's game, I think, that he's hoping that this situation isn't going to be that Ronaldo's never going to get a penalty. Unfortunately, again, in this league, and I'm sure many of you know this because you've watched it, for many years like I have, the referees can be influenced. That's why Klopp says it. That's why Sir Alex has said stuff. That's why Pep says stuff. That's now why Ollie has said stuff, because they know you can attach a stereotypical opinion to a player. You can make, it's happened with United before. I think it even happened with Ronaldo before, all those years ago. It happened with Ashley Young. We've had players attached as divers and they don't get penalties. So it's almost like some of the referees think Ronaldo dives. It's almost like they've got an ego. Actually, when I think about it, it's almost like Ronaldo goes down and a referee thinks, I'm going to be the referee that doesn't give Ronaldo a penalty. I'm not going to be his bitch. And it's almost like they don't want to give a penalty because it's Ronaldo. Because 2 of them yesterday were stonewallers. And you give it, and then if it's not a penalty, VAR's there to help you. It's you know what I mean? It's almost like it's an egotistical stubbornness in the referees that I'm Martin Atkinson. I'm a goat too. I'm not going to give King Ronaldo a penalty. Look at me. I'm the referee that didn't do it. And it's like, actually, if you manage the game properly, give the penalty, and then VAR will help you out if it wasn't. That's the whole point of VAR. Some of these referees are just so arrogant. They see a penalty and they decide it's not a penalty. But what they don't realise is the whole world gets to see it in slow motion. And when we see it in slow motion, it's a borderline decision. They haven't seen it. They've guessed. Martin Atkinson guessed twice yesterday and VAR backed him up. But he's clearly not seen it. He's guessed at it. And it's almost like, oh, I'm going to look at me. I didn't give Ronaldo a penalty. But what they don't realise is, yeah, look at you. You're a complete prat because we get to see it back. What he should have done in both instances was say, that looks like a penalty. I've given it. And then VAR goes, yeah, you're right. Or it goes, you know what? He's actually dived. It's not a penalty. Come and have a look at the screen. But no, they're guessing. They're guessing off their ego. It feels like, you're Ronaldo, I'm not going to give you a penalty. And, you know, they make themselves look stupid because they're guessing. And then we see how they've guessed because we know there is contact. Some referees can see a player dives clearly and they'll give a yellow card for it, but neither in those cases. Harry's passing is low-key on par with Fred's. The game was okay, but not great. Ollie tactic needs to dominate games and not just individual brilliance, says Z is boss. And Mark, thoughts on referee? I've done that one. So thanks for the super chats that are coming in. You can do that through the $sign. Yeah, I think in general, I would agree with a lot of what people have said then. As I say, there's been some sort of arrogant criticism of Ollie in the press, and I wanted to know what our fans thought about the game, because the most important people about Manchester United are the millions of you who have your opinions on it. And the most people I've spoken to, and most people in the chat there, are saying it's a good step forward. The tempo was better at times. We had more shots on target. It was better, and that's all I'm saying. It was better, but I think it was. I mean, anything's better than Young Boys, but I think it was better than Newcastle. I think it was better than Leeds. I think it was better than Southampton. I think it was better than Wolves. I think it was our best performance of the season. That's a step forward in definition. So that's what I would take about that. Ollie now needs to carry this winning momentum till next international. Tough games coming after international break. Thoughts, says Ronit. I can't wait until the games after the next international break. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We need to beat Villa and we need to beat Everton. I'm hearing people saying that Villa and Everton are a hard game. Come on. Villa and Everton at home are not games we should look at with fear. We've got Cristiano Ronaldo, Bruno Fernandes, Rafael Varane, David De Gea, Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Paul Pogba, Mason Greenwood. We've got bloody good players. We don't need to fear Everton and Villa. They can. And Everton got a point again as last season. But look, I said you've got to beat West Ham because we beat West Ham last year. We've got to beat Villa at home because we beat Villa at home last year. If we beat Everton at home, we didn't beat them at home last year because of a late mistake. So this is the progress we need to take. We need 6 points from these two games without being disrespectful. Not putting a long ball and hoping for the best was where we improved, I think. Also, Varane seems to be coping well to the Premier League. Hope we have get a good centre-back partnership. Abernaf makes a great point there. How many aimless long balls did we hit yesterday? We stopped. It was almost like... And that was the tactic against Young Boys for half an hour, to hit long balls. It was almost like the tactics were, please don't hit a long ball. We can't do that, which is a great improvement. I think the mantra should be get the ball, Ronaldo's feet in the box as often as possible. Sancho needs to play and bed in to be his main provider, says Nick P. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think he needs to play. Definitely needs to play on Wednesday night from the start. But just before I talk about the next thing, a lot of people going in on Harry Maguire. I don't get it. I mean, look, I don't get it. I was critical of Harry Maguire probably this time last year up until Christmas. I don't think he was playing particularly well. There's probably a very good reason for that. He'd been through a very traumatic event in Greece, as we know. But I do think from Christmas it became abundantly clear that he was the centre-back we needed to buy a partner for. And that Lindelof's weaknesses were far bigger than Harry Maguire's. And then Harry Maguire actually finished the season very, very well for us and played very, very well for England. Do I think Harry Maguire's playing as well as he can do at the moment? No. But I don't think Luke Shaw is either. So I think Harry Maguire and Luke Shaw had a very small break in the summer, and they've not come back for United as good as they can be. But I don't think they're playing badly. And I think, again, this falls into that massive hole, which is... Everybody says you're either good or you're bad, and as I keep saying, most of the time you're okay, and okay is okay. So I thought Harry Maguire was okay against West Ham. I don't think he was bad. He nearly cost us a goal again, but that's because he's not quite at the level he needs to be yet. But I don't think he's performing badly, and I wouldn't like to see Harry Maguire become a sort of, not a victim, but a target point, really. I don't want to see Harry Maguire becoming the, let's get rid of Harry Maguire. For what? He's our captain. So, Zark says that Lindelof's better than Maguire. I totally disagree. How many changes do you think Ollie will make for the Carabao Cup game, says Mojo? I want to see 11, really. I watched the preview from this afternoon, but I want to see a lot of changes because... The bench isn't young players and past-it players. The bench is full of internationals and players that need game time. Lindelof being one of those. Can you turn that down, please? Maddie! 1 minute. This is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I told you twice. You turn it down, please. You can't even hear me over the top. Bloody, I can hear it from in this room. And I walk in there and hello. I can hear it more than her. It's not the wife, it's the child. She's always been like that. She needs an hearing test, I tell you. Anyway, the point I was trying to make is that I can't hear it now. Good. The point I was trying to make is that I think we've got to be. For me, look, I don't even like saying this because it feels a bit victimisation. But for me, the only problem in that United side that is an immediate problem is Fred, and that's because he's not a number 6. I don't really think there's anybody else in that team that we need to scrutinise and start saying that they're performing badly. Doesn't mean anybody and also as well, there's nothing wrong with. Well, there is something wrong because it will get spoken about. But next Saturday lunchtime against Villa, Bruno could have a stinker. At some point, Bruno's going to have a bad game. Oh, get rid of Bruno. You can have a bad game as well. We've got to just be aware. You can have a bad game and you can get criticised. I don't get this phenomenon. And, I think Phil Jones did an interview at the weekend and he's doing one with MUTV at some point. And we're going to get it all again. I can predict now what's going to happen. Load of people are going to feel sorry for Phil Jones and go, oh, the abuse he gets is ridiculous and all this, that and the other. Of course the abuse he gets is ridiculous. Of course it is. But the vile abuse, the people who, who start having a go at his kids and stuff like that sort of abuse is unacceptable. But the abuse he gets for his performances, well, I've got to be honest, you know what? Any person who underperforms in their job is going to get criticised. And I think criticism of performance, I've got no problem with that. Some people mask it with banter because they want to say really bad things, so they'll mask it with banter. I'm the master at that. I'll make a joke out of something because if I don't, I'm going to really lose my top because I get very, very passionate. But I do think we've got to live in a world where poor performance has to be pulled up. I could have a bad stream tonight and you could say you were shit. I mean, I get it. People say I'm shit every stream. I'm used to that. But you can have a bad performance and you can get criticised without it meaning that you don't. It doesn't mean you don't like that player forever. Imagine if Phil Jones comes back from his injury, his knee problem, and he's better than Maguire and Varane. Are we meant to go, no, he missed that penalty in the pink boots. He pulls funny faces. He invented his own offside trap against Sheffield United. He's crap and he must always be crap. No, he could come back and be the best centre-back in the world. What are we going to do? No, we're not accepting it. I appreciate that you are the best centre-back in the world now, but we're not accepting it. You are a useless clown defender. No, of course we're not. Things can change. If you're crap, you're crap, and if you're good, you're good. And that's what happens in entertainment. A stand-up comedian could have a bad set of jokes, no one laughs, and then he could come out with an absolute goldie, and then another one, and then another one. Nailing down on referees and enforcing some sort of ban or even fine for poor judgment could finally make VAR relevant and consistent with all games, says Josho. And hi mate, just wondering if you could say the email address to get in touch. I know it's That's Football, but I don't know the rest. Sorry to ask midstream, says Gavin Blake. That's footballmedia@gmail.com is the one if you want to get in contact about stuff. We are actually going to be running some adverts soon. You remember I keep saying to people that if you are a match-going fan and you want to do fan vlogs like Adam does, we've had a few people getting in contact, but to be honest, I'm surprised at how little people have replied about that. It's a massive opportunity to be in front of thousands of people giving your match day experience at home and away if you want to do it, if you're home and away or if you're at home. So we're actually going to be putting out some official adverts soon for content creators who are going to be at the matches. We're going to put it out properly. Also going to be looking for a bit of a production team as well to be working with me on some some content as well. So keep your ears to the ground if you are a professional or if you are at games and stuff like that. But that's footballmedia@gmail.com. We're looking to expand some of the content that we're doing, so yeah, that's how you do that. I'm not. Somebody said this there. So you're not sympathetic to people who get abuse online. Bloody hell, I am sympathetic to people who get abuse online. I was talking to Drawty about this earlier on. I'm very sympathetic to people who get abuse online. But what I would always say is that if you want to do this or you want to be online, you've got to have a thick skin, because you're always going to get abuse. It's wrong. You know, a black footballer can miss a shot at the weekend and they will get a load of racist abuse. It's been going on for a long time. You know, you speak to someone like Paul Ince, it's been going on since, the 80s and, before that. But this is social media. They can't even stop that sort of vile behaviour. So if you are on social media, it's very difficult. I always feel sorry for the younger generation who have to get used to this abuse, because you do have to get used to it. You shouldn't have to get used to it, but you do have to get used to it. So, if you're in the public eye, or even if you're on social media, you're going to get abuse. If you're on a WhatsApp group, you might get abuse, but at least you know who's done that. But you are going to get abuse. So I am sympathetic to people who get abuse, but to pretend you live in a world, especially as a footballer, that you're not going to get abuse, well, you are going to get it, unfortunately. But not everybody can deal with it in the right way. I remember when I first came into this, and I was talking about this on That's Football yesterday, I remember when I first came into this industry, and I came from a professional background, and I wasn't really on social media. I started getting involved, started giving my opinions, and I started getting a bit of... I started getting in arguments I wish I shouldn't have done, but I was quite inexperienced. And I got into some arguments with some United creators and some Liverpool creators and stuff like that. And, a lot of creators I got involved in arguments with because I just didn't really think their opinions were that good. And I woke up one day over Christmas and somebody said, I woke up this morning and I'd hoped you'd be dead, maybe next year. And this was a United creator. This was somebody who's quite well known in the United creating industry. And I'm not saying, I'm not doing that to call them out, but what I'm saying is, that shook me. That was right, I don't care, I don't mind being called an idiot, I don't be called, some of the stuff that you get killed, but wishing I was dead when I've got young kids and this is just football, that to me was that's just vile. And it shook me. Not because that person had said it. I mean, it would have been nice to get an apology, but I didn't. But the reality is I just couldn't... it was the first big thing that bothered me. Now, I've had people say that to me loads of times since, but that first one is the one where you go, fucking hell, this is quite a vile place. You're going to get some horrible stuff said about you, and that's where you get a thick skin. And look, there might be people saying it in the chat now, and it won't bother me as much as it did that first time, and I've become quite, backthink, wings of steel. But that first time is bloody horrible. It is. And you think, God, how can people think like that and also wish that upon me? So I'm very sympathetic to some of the stuff that Phil Jones might have had. I can imagine some of the stuff he's had when he's missed a penalty. And, look, I was there going, pink boots, you prat. That's not that, is it? That's a bit of banter and a bit of frustration because he's missed the penalty. But I imagine some people might have said some horrible stuff, which is... it's never nice to have to deal with. I will generally miss Phil Jones when he leaves. He's our Phil Jones. Hope he can leave this club on a high, says Joe Palmer. Thanks for the super chat there. And I'm still wondering how Cavani will play. Only if he plays with Ronaldo at one point. He would leave our natural winger, even though I think Ronaldo is an underrated playmaker, thought, says Paolo. We're going to see a development of how Cavani gets into this team, to be honest with you. We are going to see a development because... Ronaldo will play a lot of games, won't he? Mark, we just enjoy your content. Carry on, mate, says Sam. Oh, mate, I'm not talking... Look, I don't want you to take it that way. I'm talking about this Phil Jones thing. I'm talking about abuse. I think if you are in the public eye, you've got to find a way of adjusting to it and dealing with it, because it's never acceptable, but nobody's going to come out and protect you because they can't. This whole social media world, you can't be stopped. It can't be stopped. There are accounts out there that just constantly churn shit out about me, and it's all lies. And I'm like, let them crack on. At the end of the day, you're living rent-free in their head, but it shouldn't be allowed. It doesn't keep me awake at night. It doesn't massively bother me. It is what it is. But I do remember what it was like that first time, and it was very, very hard to deal with. Wishing that on somebody was very, very hard. But unfortunately, you do have to get used to it. And I've been doing this for 5 or 6 years since then, so I have become used to it. And I would hope that Phil Jones can adjust to it in that way as well. And he needs support. Jesse Lingard came out about it as well. You might be struggling with it. I'm not ever going to say it's acceptable, but you have to find a way to deal with it, because nobody's going to stop it unless you come off social media. And why should you do that? Why should they win? But if you're mentally not able to deal with it, then you probably should come off it. But Yeah, it's a difficult one, and we're hearing more and more footballers come out saying that, I'm a human being, I don't like it, but maybe the club should put something in place for that. I'd happily go to Manchester United and give them advice on it. They'd probably say we don't want you to because you said he's got pink boots on. But when I'm giving out abuse, it's done in a jokey, frustrated fashion. I wouldn't start wishing harm on people's children and their lives and stuff like that. But look, I do have that experience. Probably had more abuse than most people have had, and I do have that experience of how to deal with it. And I think that, thinking you're going to stop that abuse, Phil, it's not going to happen. You're always going to get criticised. And look, what are you going to do about rival fans? It's not nice when United fans are doing it, but even if you get United fans on side, Liverpool fans might do it. You think Zidane is the right man for the club and would do a better job than the rest with winning trophies and positive results, says Amar Hassan. I'm not going to talk about that, Amir. Thanks very much for the sticker, Renate. I'm not going to talk about that, Amir, because I think it's disrespectful to Ollie. If you're asking me if Ollie quit tomorrow, who would I go for? I would go for Zidane over Conte every day of the week, yes. But I'm not thinking like that, and I don't think we should do. Going back to that question about Cavani, though, I think it's a great question, and I think there's a lot of avenues that excite me about United. You know what? If I'm honest, I'm really excited about United at the moment. I think you go through peaks and troughs. After that Young Boys result, I was like, oh God, it's going to be one of them years again, isn't it? Crap football grinding out results. After the Leeds result, I was like, oh, this is a good start to the season. After the Newcastle result, I'm just thinking, it's Ronaldo. And now I'm thinking, you know what? There was a few sprouts of positivity there. I liked how many shots we created. Ronaldo's got 3 goals in 2 games in the Premier League. I feel excited, and I'm thinking, Wednesday night he's going to play all these players who need game time as well. What if Martial scores a hat-trick, Jesse gets another couple, Donny has a worldie, Matic runs the midfield? There's lots to be excited about. And then it's Villa on Saturday lunchtime, then it's back in the Champions League, then it's Everton, and then it's a load of games good after the international break. And, it's just exciting, isn't it? FIFA 22 is coming out. I'm going to go in my Man United career mode. I'm just excited. I feel good at the moment. And I think that within that, you start thinking about, beyond all those things I've just mentioned there, what about what's he going to do with Cavani? What's he going to do with Sancho? What's he going to do with his centre-backs like Lindelof and Bailly? Are they ever going to play apart from the Carabao? What if we get knocked out on Wednesday and there's no more Carabao Cup games to give these people game time? How's he going to rotate? What's he going to do when Telles comes back? Is Martial ever going to get any game time? And Donny as well, stuff like that. What about when Henderson comes back? Is he going to start rotating the goalkeepers? So there's lots of things there that are quite very, very intriguing. And I think Cavani's very intriguing because to me, there's just no way I can't see how Ronaldo doesn't play every single minute of every Premier League game and every Champions League game because we need to win. If we're 4-0 up with 70 minutes to go, with 20 minutes to go, take Ronaldo off and bring Cavani on. But how often is that going to happen? So he's going to have to find a way, considering Cavani's only in England for another year because we begged him to stay. There's got to be a promise of first team football for Cavani. Well, there's definitely one for Ronaldo. So we're going to have to find a way to play them both on the same pitch. Now, will that be detrimental to us or will it help us? Are we going to have to change a formation? It's going to be very interesting to see what he does because I can't see Cavani being sat on the bench. Zed Jamie says, I hope you're well, Mark. I wish nothing but the best for you and your family. The abuse is a disgrace. We're glad to give you a platform for fans to voice opinion. Thanks, Zed Jamie. I genuinely wasn't talking about, the abuse for me. I don't really care about it. But what I was doing is trying to, we are going to get this interview from Phil Jones, and I think a lot of people are going to jump off the deep end saying, oh, it's ridiculous the abuse he gets, and they'll start using that abuse as anybody who criticised his performances. I've got no problem with people who criticise performance. I don't care if somebody says I don't like the United stand because I don't like the way it's presented, I don't like the graphics, that's fine. I don't like the One Show. Simple as that. Producers crying, whatever, don't like it. But there's a difference between criticism and abuse. But I guarantee you, when this interview comes out about Phil Jones, people will be going, oh, I blame United stand and I blame all these fan channels and I blame the media and this, that and the other. When actually most people who've criticised Phil Jones have got lots of reasons to do it because he's not been a good footballer. The abuse is stuff where people are shouting at his kids or shouting abuse at him or writing vile stuff about him. And that is the abuse that we shouldn't have to put up with. But you do have to put up with, because there's nobody there to stop it. And as I said, that's why I gave that example of 5 years ago. I realised 5 years ago, when that person said that about me, that people can say what they bloody well like and there's no recourse. You know, that person's still building a career out. You know, never apologised. If they'd apologised, I'd have gone, you know, whatever, you've said it in heat, whatever like that. But, and there were other comments as well. And you just think, there are vile people out there making vile comments, and nobody's ever going to do anything about it. And I think if you are a victim of that abuse, and that's what I was saying about Phil Jones, you just got to find a way to deal with it, Phil, because I don't think you're going to get that much justice, really, because people can, as I say, there are black players at Manchester United, England, and all around the world who might miss a penalty at the weekend and get absolutely showered with a vile racism, and most of the people who do it will get away with it. So, you know, what chance have you got when someone gives you a bit of abuse for being a centre-back? Ronaldo brings more than goals. This signing is better than I thought, says Andrew. It's a fantastic signing, Cristiano Ronaldo. It absolutely is. Just on Phil Jones, though, there was a story I wanted to bring in as well about Manchester United. Now, look, the reason I've left it towards the end is because it's in the Sun. And as we know, the Sun ain't the greatest. You know, there's one journalist at the Sun, Neil Custis, who's followed United for a long time. He isn't even that accurate himself all the time, but sometimes he hits. If it's not Neil Custis, I don't really pay any attention to it. But I did want to bring it up just because, in case anybody read it, it says that United are looking to shift 7 players in January. Now, we can't shift 1 player in the summer, let alone 7. So, you know, we didn't actually sell anybody last summer. Oh, Dan James. Woohoo! We did. Right on the end, we sold Dan James. So, you know, we had 3 months to get rid of 5 players this summer, and we got rid of 1. So we're not going to get rid of 7 in January. So, but the list includes Phil Jones, Tellez, Delot, Bailly, Jesse, Martial and Donny. So that is 7 players. There is no way we are getting rid of 7 players. If you've seen that article and you're thinking, ooh, we're going to do that, you might like it, you might not like it. We ain't going to get rid of 7 players in January. No way. We just won't do it. We probably could do with moving on 7 players, but we're not going to get rid of 7. For 1, Jesse won't go. For 2, I don't think Martial might go on a loan, but he won't go in January, I don't think. Eric Bailly will start looking for a move, but I don't think he will go in January. Phil Jones maybe gets a loan. Delot and Tellez, I don't think will go. We're just not going to do that. I think it's an interesting list. Donny van der Beek, Anthony Martial, I can see both of those players going. Jesse, I think will sign a new contract. Eric Bailly, I think will go. Phil Jones, I think needs to go if he can get fit. Delot, I think will go, and I think Tellez might have to go. You know, a lot of people took. I don't think there's enough. I think all those players, apart from Jesse, probably will leave United, but I think they'll all probably go next summer. I think Mata will retire next summer. I think Matic will probably go next summer as well. But I think next summer is going to be a very interesting summer. I think that's why, you know, bringing it back to the now, I keep saying that's why we have the hoodie saying Last Dance. I think that this team isn't just Last Dance because of Ronaldo. He's the leader of the Last Dance. This season is a Last Dance. There's a lot of upheaval coming for United. This is not a stable team for the next 2 years. Next summer is going to be very, very disruptive. You know, maybe Pogba stays, maybe he goes. If he goes, that's a big, big, big change at Manchester United. I think Lindelof and Bailly, one of those will push, if not both. Van der Beek will push, Martial will push, Delot will push. You know, there's a lot of players that are going to look to move, and then Matic and Martial probably retire as well. Matic and Mata probably move or retire as well. So this is why this season's so important. United, you notice how Ollie's not talking about progress anymore, because you can't sell progress when you know you've got a massive upheaval summer coming up next year. We're going to lose a lot of players, but that's why this season's so important, because we've still got Lindelof, we've still got Bailly. If we get an injury to Maguire or Varane, we've still got 2 decent centre-backs. We've still got Delot if anything happens to Wan-Bissaka. Pogba's still here. Martial, Donny are still here if we get injuries and stuff. So this season is very, 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 very important for United. But I do think we're in for a season of a summer of upheaval next year, and we're going to have to be very, very careful about you know, how we deal with that, because if we're not, we've got to achieve this season. Basically, I wouldn't say it's now or never, but it's a big opportunity for United, because I think next season it'll be very different. Mr. Owl says Jones should leave. Most defenders that leave United do quite well most of the time. Phil Neville, Johnny Evans, Gerard Piqué, Chris Smalling and Hines, says Mr. I'd be very sad if Phil Jones left, because I feel he's like our whatever he is, but I would be over the moon if Phil Jones could get fit and go and play for Newcastle or West Ham. He's no longer a Man United player. Even before his injury, he's not a Manchester United player. I can't sit here with a straight face and say, Fred's not a United player really. Jesse's not a first team player for United, he's a bench player. Is Martial a United player anymore? Lindelof's not a United player anymore. There's a list of players that there's nothing wrong with them. They're good footballers. Jesse's a good footballer. I just think he's a bench player. Lindelof's a good footballer. He's a bench player. Eric Bay's a good footballer. He's a bench player. If I'm saying all this about good footballers, even if Phil Jones is a good footballer still, he's not a Man United player, is he? And, people don't want to say that. They don't want to say that because they feel it's unfair. But we have got a standard, and those standards have dropped. And if we've got set that standard now, that the quality of centre-back that plays for United is Varane, and the quality of striker that plays for United is Ronaldo, and the quality of number 10 is Bruno, and the quality of the goalkeeper is a world-class De Gea, and the quality of the left-back is one of the best left-backs in the world at the moment, Luke Shaw, then it doesn't matter how fit you get and how good you become back. Phil Jones is never going to be a first-team player at United, is he? If he's happy to be on the bench, I don't think he's on the bench. But, that's why I say I would love to see Phil Jones get fit and just enjoy football. Go and play football. He's earned a lot of money. He's quite right. When he's retired, he's got a lot of money. So I'd be thinking, get fit. That's obviously had a big play on his head. Get fit and go and play for a Premier League club that will let you play for as much as you can. And if you get another 100 games... it's 100 games more than you thought you were going to get with your injuries. But this is what Lindelof will have to do. This is what Bay will have to do. This is what Donny will have to do. These players deserve to play. And I tell you what, one player that never gets mentioned is Alex Telles. What a player he was when we bought him. He was one of the best left-backs in Europe. I would have put Telles in the top 5 left-backs in Europe when he was playing in Portugal. Delivery, absolutely fantastic. He's come to United and he's hardly kicked a ball. Now, he's had a few injuries and Luke Shaw's been fantastic. But Telles don't get mentioned the way Donny gets mentioned. And yet Telles was a fantastic left-back. He was an international as well. Absolutely fantastic player, Telles. Can't get a look in. And almost gets forgotten. He won't hang about. Why should he hang about? Yeah, he's come to United, he's earned good money, but he's not getting game time, is he? So we've got a few players like that, and that's why I think Ollie should rotate massively on Wednesday, because you can't afford to have 7 or 8 people knocking on your door next summer saying, I'm not getting any game time, I want to go. So, it's important that he gives these players a good run. Telles was a baller, says absolutely liquid. Oh, he was magnificent. Absolutely magnificent. I understand why he's not playing, because I think Luke Shaw's been brilliant. But, I don't think Telles is going to sit there going, I'm happy just to sit on the bench at Manchester United. He needs some game time, doesn't he? He really does. Anyway, look, sorry I was a little bit late tonight, but I think we've ended up having a good show. Really enjoyed it. Some serious issues, but some good conversation, which is what it's always about. Make sure you smash a like on the video. Remember to click the link in the video description. Boohooman have launched their new neutrals range. 40% off through the link in the video description using the code UnitedStand. Check out their new neutrals range. I'm wearing some of their Boohooman stuff as well. Do you worry about Aaron Wan-Bissaka? He's making a few more mistakes. Tariq, I think this is a myth. I've said this before about Wan-Bissaka. I feel that there is a growing number of United fans who are trying to turn Wan-Bissaka into some sort of target for being a shit player. I don't see it. I see a player that's playing very, very well and is getting better now that he's got a proper centre-back next to him. But people are like trying to make out he's crap. I just do not see it. Sorry, I just do not. Anyway, check out the link in the video description for Boohooman, 40% off. I'm wearing some of the stuff here. They did say, as part of their neutral range, who's the number 1 unsung hero of the Premier League era for Manchester United. Well, being as I'm the only one with a voice that can speak, that anyone can hear, I have read some of your chats, And I would say that for me, the most underrated player in Manchester United's Premier League history, an underrated player for me is somebody who's a first team player. You know, a squad player is a Wes Brown, someone like that. Underrated is somebody that was massively important to us, but didn't probably get the praise they did. There's only one name for me, Dennis Irwin. Dennis Irwin, most of you won't probably remember him. He could play right or left back. He's probably the best right back we've ever had and the best left back we've ever had because he could play both. And he was a first team player. He scored a lot of goals. He was brilliant. He was unassuming, underrated, unsung hero. Dennis Irwin for me. But that's probably a little bit old for some of you, but it was the Premier League era. I don't agree with Park. I don't think Park played enough first-team football to be underrated or unsung hero. Dennis Irwin was a first-team player and didn't really get the credit he deserved. Park's a good shout. Carrick would be a good shout as well. But I think some of you are interpreting it wrong as a player that was a bit of a squad player that did well for us. Unsung hero for me is a player that was an essential first team player that just didn't get the praise they deserved. Carrick would be a very, very good one. Carrick was totally and utterly underrated by most people out of Manchester, really. But he was fantastic. Look, thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video. Thank you for the super chat from Connor West. Make sure you check out the link in the video description for Boohoo Man. Check out their new neutral range. Thanks for the integration and the unsung hero idea. And you can get 40% off with the code United Stand. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Take care. And thanks for a great show. Really enjoyed the wide range of conversation as always on the chat. So speak to you in a bit.